Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Arefu.
Arefu.
Now I'm sure most players remember Arefu because it's a part of the quest Blood Ties, which is a pretty significant quest in the game, or at least it's very famous, and I do actually quite enjoy this quest. Now Arefu is a small village in Romania, and it's best known for its proximity to the former castle of Vlad III, or who is also known as Dracula or Vlad the Impaler. So we can see the obvious reasons for the quest, blood ties being associated here. So if my Romanian pronunciation is okay, the proper pronunciation would be Arefu. However, some of the characters in Fallout 3 simply say Arefu. Some of them say Arefu, some of them say Arefu, kind of a mixed bag depending on the character, as you just saw with Ian.
Arefu.
Now, within the world of Fallout 3, Arefu actually doesn't get its name from, well, the town in Romania. Actually, it gets its name from this exit sign on the highway that is actually supposed to say careful. But obviously the C and the L have fallen off, so now it says Arefu. Kind of just a cool little thing, because obviously these people here probably have little knowledge about Arefu. They might know about vampires and Dracula and stuff, but I don't know how detailed their knowledge would have been, so this is why it's called Arefu, at least within the lore of the game. This is a very famous town in Fallout 3. It is located just north of Vault 106 and just south of the Northwest Seneca Station in the area that we've been exploring around recently. So with that long introduction out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into Arefu. Arefu? Does it matter? Not really. Now, as you approach Arefu, please be careful because sometimes you might have encounters with random enemies like this Deathclaw who is attacking some Brotherhood outcast. And this Deathclaw absolutely wrecked their day, but thankfully the outcast dealt enough damage so I was able to make quick work of the Deathclaw. Also, you might find some merchants here like Crazy Wolfgang since Arefu is on a trading path. But if you come here for the first time, you will notice that things are not normal. This town is kind of not in good shape. We have this abandoned shack at the very entrance where we can find several dead Brahmin. Not a good sign. Also, then I got attacked by a rad scorpion. Again, there can be lots of critters in this area. And then we can see the road sign that says careful, or what used to say careful, and now it says Arefu. Also, while I was trying to film the scenic shot, I was again attacked by just random shit. So much stuff is going on out here. It's actually pretty fun. A sentry bot started attacking me. The sentry bot started getting attacked by raiders. Just pure chaos. Anyways, I just thought I'd mention that, yeah, the entrance can be chaotic. Anyways, as you make your way up, you're going to find some crash buses and stuff like that, but to be perfectly honest, there really isn't anything of note as you approach. But eventually you're going to find this small town and you'll be shot at. However, this explosion cannot kill you. It is a scripted event, so yeah. Anyways, this guy, Evan King, is kind of the sheriff of Arefu, and he's the one that shot at us but missed. But we can very quickly learn that Arefu is in a sorry state. They're in a defensive position, and their population has shrunken, well, massively. What used to be a town of 30 people, somehow, there's not enough houses for 30 people, but apparently 30 people used to live here, now only has a population of 7. So Evan King here tells us that he would like us to go check on all of the residents to make sure they are okay. A pretty easy task, and we'll just take him up on his offer because we are a good Samaritan. And in the first house here, we can find the colorful cast of Mr. and Mrs. Ewers, and they are something else. So the wife is, well, not so smart. She's asking for some kind of magazine, and, well, the husband, well, you can see for yourself.
Gentlemen, please, do come inside. Let me unlock.
What the hell are you doing in here? Get the fuck out! Oh, for the love of... Look, she's dumber than a bag of hammers, okay? If you want to talk to anyone, you need to talk to me. So what the fuck do you want?
Wow, Brayley, scored yourself a real winner there, didn't you? But hey, I guess if they're happy, who am I to complain? Anyways, these two are okay despite, well, their kind of weird personalities. they are okay, but we do
Everyone is
understand
keeping
that Ken
themselves safe
here
from the
is
family.
not happy with the
If I
situation
was
in
you,
Arefu
I'd do the
and that he
same.
thinks Evan
You
is
wanna
not
know
doing
more?
a suitable
Talk
job.
to Evan.
And I don't know why, but for some reason when I tried to talk to Brayley here, she was trying to flee, so maybe there was a critter or something underneath Arefu that was like attacking, because I had this caution sign. Anyways, the next residence is Karen's residence. Of course, she is going to complain about the situation in Arefu because, well, her name is Karen. But memes and jokes aside, she is concerned with the current situation, but this is just a woman who lives by herself. I don't know if she has some kind of tragic backstory, maybe she lost a friend, a husband, brother, family, who knows, but yeah, she doesn't really go into it, but she is concerned about the situation. Again, we can see people are not happy about the situation. And after that, we can move on to the West residence. Of course, Evan is okay. And as we enter the West residence, we find something very disturbing. We can click on the bodies and we find the bodies of the West have bite marks on the neck area that go to the bone. The lack of bloodstains on the sheets is strange, as any bite or wound of that depth should have caused massive bleeding. The bite marks on the neck appear to be from a human or humans with sharpened incisors or canines. Something is really weird going on here. Anyways, with that, the population of Arefu is now down to 4 because the West mom and dad are dead and their son, Ian, has, well, disappeared. So that is good. They used to have 30 people and now they have, well, 4 people. If we go to the far northern end of Arefu, we can find their toilet system, just some outhouses, and across from us we can find the other part of the highway where there is an Enclave outpost, and the Enclave will actually attack you from over there if you haven't already dealt with them. Now, apparently the citizens of Arefu collapsed the highway on purpose. How they did that is currently unknown, but maybe they just used a fuck ton of TNT. So after doing a welfare check on all of the citizens of Arefu, we will return to Evan, where we will report our results and the unfortunate news about the West. This is actually where we will first learn about Ian, the West son, and apparently Ian has been talking to the leader of the family. The family is a local gang that is causing all of this trouble for Arefu. So he tells us then that we should go find Ian because he's a good kid and he's either been kidnapped or manipulated or something by the family. However, Evan doesn't know where the family is, so we have to start a search around this local area in order to locate their hideout. So let's start our epic adventure looking for Ian.
What?
So after completely failing on our first attempt, we can start looking at the local area. Now, I've already explored a lot of the places nearby, and you will know that the family is not located in any of them. However, there is a secret passage in the Northwest Seneca Station. We've already done a video on this location, so if you're curious, please check it out. But anyways, going to the Northwest Seneca Station and going inside, we can find Murphy. And Murphy is this ghoul here who produces Ultra Jet. You can sell him sugar bombs in order to produce his Ultra Jet if you want to do that. But if we ask Murphy about the family, he will say that they have a good relationship because he doesn't bother them and they don't bother him. But he tells us there might be a secret passage in the back here through this manhole. If you go down there, you're going to find a small cave with mirelurks. You'll come out the other side, inside of the hideout of the family. Pretty convenient, but there's a ton of traps, so be careful. Now, the actual entrance to the family's hideout is here at Meresti Train Yard. Now, Meresti Train Yard also has some connections to Austria. Who would have guessed? Meresti is the commune in I might say this wrong, Harghita County, Romania, which is a part of Transylvania. Obviously, a lot of connections to Dracula, vampires, all of that awesome stuff. So that's where it gets its name. Now, as we go inside, there's going to be a plethora of traps, including this crying baby, which I couldn't disarm. Also, Meresti has 2 entrances, an east entrance and a west entrance. Doesn't matter which entrance you go inside of. Eventually, as you make your way through, you're going to find this man, Robert. And this is kind of your first encounter with the family. However, he's pretty easy to convince that you're an okay person. So just do whatever you gotta do to convince him that you're okay, and he will let you pass. Now, in Fallout, I always play with the radio off to avoid copyright issues, but for some reason in Fallout 3, sometimes the radios are still on, so I turn them off. But here, Robert got very angry at me for turning off his radio.
Why are you the way that you are?
Anyways, I just thought this was really funny. I've never seen that happen in Fallout, but here you can see my settings. My radio is indeed turned all the way down, and also my ambient music is turned all the way down. So I'm not sure why these radios continue to play. If anybody has an answer in the comments, please let me know. But yeah, Robert here gets very angry if you mess with his radio. So don't change the channel, don't turn off Robert's radio, or else he will ruin the entire quest of Blood Ties. I reloaded a save so we can continue on with the video. Now inside Meresti Station, we can find the family, and the family is also a colorful cast of characters, just kind of like at Arefu. One of the characters, and a very important one for us, is Carl. He kind of acts as the merchant for the family. You can trade with him and buy goods, which is actually very useful. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But for now, he's actually very useful because we can convince him through a strength test to give us the key to the room where Ian is. Ian is being held in isolation, and he will give us the password for the terminal in order to open up that room, which is just so helpful. So thank you very much, Mr. Carl. And as I was saying, Carl is also a merchant, so you can trade with him. He sells a significant amount of scrap metal, which can be useful if you're going to give it to Walter and Megaton or Winthrop within the underworld. So just a good note, this is a great way to get some scrap metal. We can also find Holly, who is the wife of Vance, and Vance is the leader of the family. Here we have Brianna, who kind of acts as an escort who services the men of the family. She seems to like her job. However, she mentions that she does not service married men. So I guess they do have some ethics, at least, going on here, which is kind of interesting. Maybe it's kind of like a commune or something. And we can also find some new recruits to the family, including Justin here, and sitting behind him is Alan. And one thing you'll quickly realize is everybody here seems very happy. They seem happy with their leader Vance. They seem like to think that he's a great person with a lot of good leadership skills. So this does not actually seem like a normal gang, at least on the surface, but this is a very, very weird gang indeed. And then if we talk to Vance, the leader of the family, we can find out why this gang is so unique. Now, apparently they have developed a mutation craving human flesh, but they've learned they can consume human blood as a substitute to satisfy this hunger and avoid true cannibalism. And this group does see cannibalism as barbaric and, well, not humane. However, apparently, killing and drinking somebody's blood is perfectly fine. Anyways, that is why they have adopted this quote-unquote vampire lifestyle. Of course, they're not real vampires. They can't turn into a bat. They can go outside during the day. They can look in mirrors, all of that good stuff. But they do need to drink blood, at least according to Vance and this alleged mutation. Anyways, after this with Vance, we can go talk to Ian. And Ian is located in the back of the station, and as I said before, he's being kept in isolation because he is the newest member to the family and he's feeling a lot of conflict about his recent decision. Well, we'll find out a lot more about that decision here in a few seconds. But here is Mr. Ian. He is a lot older than I initially expected him to be. I don't know, I just imagined a child when I was, searching for the son of the West family, but it's not a child. It is actually like a young adult. And if you question Ian here, he will reveal he is the one who killed his own parents and drank their blood. According to Ian, he is also kind of suffering from this mutation in that he feels deeply conflicted about what to do next. But yeah, he did murder his parents, and you could easily see the entire family as murderers. They're killing people for their blood. I mean, they're literally acting like vampires, but maybe they have a reason to do so if they really do have this kind of weird mutation. Up to you who to believe, but basically I convince Ian that he should go back to Arefu and support his community and take responsibility for his actions. And this can be done with a speech check, and there's another way we can do that, which we will mention later in the video. So after I convince Ian to go back to Arefu, I decide to take the peaceful route here with Vance, and I actually convince them to just stop bothering Arefu. Now, there are a couple of approaches you could choose to deal with this situation. Of course, you could just kill the family, you could side with the family, and there's actually a couple of peace deals you can make between the family and Arefu. However, I have trouble actually trusting the family to avoid killing the people of Arefu and drinking their blood, just because of their cravings that they have and encourage one person to kill his parents. I think that is very dangerous, and maybe I should not encourage Ian to go back to Arefu, but anyways, maybe my decision is absolutely bad. But basically, I convinced them to stop bothering Arefu for the foreseeable future, if Arefu doesn't bother them, kind of like the relationship they have with Murphy. Seems reasonable enough to me. Also worth mentioning, if you choose the diplomatic route, Vance will give you schematics for the shish kebab, a pretty nice weapon. After that, we can head back to Arefu and talk to Evan. Evan will be over the moon because of our actions. We ended the conflict with the family. We helped Ian return home, even though maybe he should face trial or some kind of punishment. I don't know. This seems like what I would do. But anyways, Evan is very happy, and we can see that the small community of Arefu is in much better shape. The citizens are outside, roaming around, and for our help, these citizens will offer us various things for, helping them. But these are pretty small things, but, worth mentioning. And with the quest out of the way, let's start talking about some of the good loot. Now, you might have to be a bad person and pick the door to Evan's house. Fortunately, you don't actually lose karma for this action, strangely enough. But inside Evan's house, we can find the repair bobblehead, a great find, which will increase your repair by 10. Now, if we come to the entrance of Arefu, we can find the Brahmin are now alive, thanks to us. Did we bring him back to life? Not sure. But anyways, this abandoned shack is still boarded up. However, we want to get inside, so we have to change time. By going back in time and changing our actions, we can negotiate a different peace deal between the family and Arefu. Basically, the people of Arefu will supply blood packs for the family to drink. And in return, the family will protect Arefu from any wrongdoers. I think this is kind of a unsettling situation, but it is a situation that you can choose. It's also worth mentioning that Vance finds this option much preferable because it puts his group in a better position, so he will actually consider you almost a member of the family and will give you a special ability which we will discuss later. And with that, we will take Vance's proposal to Evan, who takes it really well. I was actually quite surprised. He doesn't even need any convincing. I don't know how the people of Arefu would feel about this, like the Ewers or, Karen, but hey, who cares? Because Evan likes it, even though the people of Arefu don't really like Evan at this point in time. Anyways, I think this part maybe could have been designed a little bit better. Maybe we have to convince the people as well. But after Evan agrees, we go back to Vance, and Vance is very happy that we achieved this peace treaty with Arefu. And with that, he will then send Alan to live in that abandoned shack where the Brahmin are, and that is kind of the protection for Arefu. Because of this, Vance will teach us some of the ways of the vampire, and now blood packs will restore 20 HP when we use them instead of the normal 1. So, hey, not too bad.
Then
Been raised, I know, as to just how I came to be elected.
And if we go back to Arefu, now the shack will be unblocked. We can go inside. It is called Alan's Shack. And on the first floor to our left, we can find a copy of Pugilism Illustrated. Kind of a shame we have to choose a certain route in order to get this skill book, but that is how you acquire it if you want it. Thankfully, Alan was sleeping upstairs, so we could simply steal it from him. Now, also along the Potomac River, we can find this dock here, and there's a first aid box, which we can pick, which had some really good healing items for me, and also we can find a bottle of Nuka-Cola Quantum balancing on top of this post. You could see Arefu off in the distance, so we're just east of Arefu at this point. Now, in the middle of the river, we can find this kind of boat that is somehow still floating, and inside of it we can find a medical kit that we can unlock and had some good healing items inside of it. Also be aware that Mirelurks can spawn in this area. As you can see here, I had a Mirelurk and a Mirelurk Hunter. Now, if we go just underneath where that Nuka-Cola Quantum was, we can find a crashed car, along with a dead body, a skeleton, a silenced 10mm pistol, along with an ammunition box with 10mm ammo. This seems to be kind of a reference to a gang-style execution, so just a nice little find right underneath the river. Now, back inside of Meresti Station, if you jump on the train in the middle, there is a box. If you pick up the box, you can find a copy of Line Congressional Style. And perhaps one of the best hidden mini nukes in the entire game, there is a mini nuke on the top of this roof. It's very difficult to see, even with a sniper rifle, but you can kind of see it, as you can see there. And using our sniper rifle, we will then shoot the mini nuke off the roof. It might take a few shots in order to get it, but if you try hard enough, eventually you can get it. It took me about 3 shots in order to force it off the roof, and then I obviously had to go find it because it just kind of flew off into the distance. So I went around, couldn't find it, but finally I was able to get it. It was right here. And also worth mentioning, in Vance's room, we can find a very interesting weapon. Now, there are some interesting things in here besides that, but inside of the actual bedroom, we can find this hard-locked sword cabinet, even though it looks like a normal wardrobe. And inside we can find Vampire's Edge, a unique weapon within the game. And as I mentioned earlier back at Arefu, the characters can offer you various things for helping them, such as Ken here, who has a very low repair skill. I don't know how useful that is. And then Brayley over here will just give you random junk, like this tin can. And then frickin' Karen over here will just give you some of the nearby locations, all of which I've already discovered because, hey, I'm an otter and I'm also a cartographer. But hey, she doesn't know that. And one last thing I wanted to mention is Ian's sister. Yes, Ian has a sister, and he might mention her that she is missing or that he doesn't know where she is. She's actually located in Megaton at Moriarty's saloon, and I'm sure this is how most players actually start Blood Ties, because if you talk to her, she will ask you to deliver something to Arefu. She'll mention her brother and stuff inside of this letter. And this letter can be very powerful and helpful in convincing Ian to return back to Arefu and to atone for his sins. But yes, Lucy West is still alive, but now she lives in Megaton. It's as simple as that. And that is yet another way you can start this quest, of course. Just one of the brilliant things about Fallout, there are so many paths to choose. And if you go back to Vance with that letter, you can actually use the letter to encourage him or convince him to let you speak to Ian. And then, like I said, we can use the letter to convince Ian to return back to Arefu. He realizes that his sister loves him and that she really misses him. So, kind of wholesome, kind of nice, but yeah, I don't know if I actually trust Ian or anyone within the family. But there you guys have it. Arefu and, well, Arefu and Meresti Station. Now, these are some of my favorite locations actually in Fallout 3, and Blood Ties is one of my favorite side quests in the entire game. What is your guys' opinion of Blood Ties, Arefu, and the family? Do you support the family? Do you try to make a peaceful ending? Or are you more like me, where you don't trust the family to uphold their word? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Capital Wasteland. If you guys have any recommendations or ideas for future locations, future videos, please post them in the comment section below. And if you're still watching this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. I know many of you really like my Fallout 3 videos, and I really like making them. Alright guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time.